Hi guys, Mrs. Warner. I'm so excited. It's our last lesson. It's going to be great. This is it, people. And then we just have review for our final. I know you can't wait. Okay, so our last lesson that we're going to learn for the year, which sounds crazy to me, is we're going to do some solving rational equations. I'm so excited. Okay, so notice it's an equation because there is an equal sign in the problem. I'm not sure why this isn't working. Oh, there it goes. That's crazy. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to try to factor each of the denominators. So now I'm going to look at this and I'm going to notice that the first two denominators don't need to be factored. So I'm going to factor this guy over here. That's n plus 7, n minus 5. Ooh, look at that. Those denominators are already over on the other side. But look at that first fraction. It has the n minus 5. It's missing the n plus 7. So I'm going to take this 3 that's on top and multiply it by the n plus 7. If I do that on top, I would be doing it on the bottom also. And now this has a common denominator with this fraction over here. So it would essentially be 3 times n, oh my God, it's frozen, plus 7. And then the 4 that's on top here needs to multiply by n minus 5. So I'm going to multiply that by n minus 5. And this fraction after the equal sign does not need to be multiplied by anything because it already had the common denominator. So 2n plus 11 is going to remain on that side of the equal sign. Okay, so now I have 3n plus 21 plus 4n minus 20 equals 2n plus 11. All I did was distribute. I'm not using the denominator anymore because basically if I added the fraction on the left to the fraction on the right, they had a common denominator. And I could set them equal to this other fraction. And if I cross multiplied, the two denominators would cancel each other out. So basically the denominator has dissolved from the problem. And all I need to do is solve the top or the numerator. So 3n and 4n gives me 7n. 21 take away 20 gives me plus 1. And that's going to, just kidding. Oh yeah, I did a boo-boo on my answer key. I'm going to have to fix that later. So 7n plus 1 equals 2n plus 11. So now I'm going to subtract 2n to the other side, or I'm not because I'm frozen. So I've got 5n plus 1 equals 11. I'm going to subtract 1. 5n equals 10, or n is 2. Okay, now it's important to look at the problem and look at the denominators. See this n minus 5. If I plugged in 2, take away 5, that gives me negative 3. Frozen. That is an okay answer since the denominator does not turn into 0. 2 take away 7, or 2 plus 7 is 9, and that's acceptable also. So this n minus equals 2, we're going to keep that answer. Okay? It actually works because the denominators do not turn into 0. That's the last part of that where it says check your solutions in the denominator. Okay, so now let's try this again. We factor this denominator, n plus 5, n minus 2. Now, both those denominators show up on the left hand of the problem. I'm going to need to add to the numerator the bubble that is missing from the denominator. So on the first fraction, it has the n minus 2. It needs the It needs the n, just kidding. Will it write? It needs the n plus 5. This n needs the n minus 2. So this guy has to get n plus 5. And then this n, oh gosh, my computer is so, look at that. That looks great. N minus 2. Okay, so that equals 10n plus 15. Because I don't need to change the right hand of the problem because it already has the common denominator. So now I just solve. 2n plus 10 minus n squared plus 2n, watch your signs, equals 10n plus 15. Now, I got an n squared in my problem. That means some factoring is going to come up. 2n and 2n give me 4n. See this here? But I'm going to move that 4n to the other side. I'm going to subtract 10 over to here, and I'm going to add n squared so that this whole side equals 0. So now it's n squared plus 6n plus 5 in the back. Okay, so now I've got n squared plus frozen plus 6n plus 5. 5. Maybe not. Maybe it's going to write. Maybe it's going to look crazy. And what I'm going to do now is try to factor that. So I need numbers that multiply to 5. That would only be 5 and 1. Now I set each of these bubbles equal to 0. So n is -1 and n is -5. Okay, now I really need to look at the denominators. Let's look at that -5 first. So if I take -5 and do -5 minus 2, that works. That does not give me a 0. But look at, if I put that in that denominator of n plus 5, what's -5 plus 5? That becomes 0. I can't have a 0 on a denominator, so I need to cross that out and get rid of it. It's going to be rejected, or it's naughty. So the only answer I want to keep is really this -1, because -1 will not make those denominators become a 0, people. Okay, let's do our last question over here. I'm going to factor this guy, x minus 6, x minus 5. Minus 6 and minus 5 give me positive 30. When I multiply them, give me positive 30 when I multiply them, and they add to -11. Okay, so the first fraction has x minus 5. It needs the x minus 6. The second fraction has the x minus 6. It needs the x minus 5. And the last fraction does not need either. Distributing out, I've got x squared minus 6x plus 2x minus 10 equals 2. Is it going to write? There it is. Okay, so I'm going to combine that up. I got x squared minus 4x. I'm going to move the 2 to the other side, so it's minus 12 equals 0. Factor it. X minus 6, x plus 2 equals 0 to give me that 6 times 2 is 12, but the -4 comes from -6 and positive 2. Set each one equal to 0. So x, oh, it's not writing. So x here, why would it write? Oh, there it goes. Minus 6 equals 0. This is going to be x equals 6. But if you're looking back here, what's 6 minus 6? 0. So this guy gets rejected. X minus 2 equals 0. X is -2. And it's okay to keep that -2, or positive 2. It's okay to keep that positive 2 for our answer because it will not make one of the denominators be 0. Okay, folks, that was it. Factor the denominator, then add to the numerator the missing piece on each fraction, and then just solve your resulting equation. Always look back to see if the denominator does not turn out to 0, and you're good to go with your solutions. All right, have fun. That was our last lesson of the year, people. Now it's just review for that final exam. All right, have a great day. Bye. Maybe my video